All right, so we are in your public policy purple book. Basically, I'll just call it your purple book. And today what we're going to do is we're going to walk through and get ourselves a picture of what the American political system looks like. I told you last class, and I'll repeat it, that everything that we do from here forward is somehow, some way going to fit into this model. We've got the basis now. We've worked through the history, and so like the path of our class basically is we'll just work through this process to try to understand how our political system works. On the front of your purple book, you have like some key vocabulary. I'm going to explain and use all of those words today, but if you just want to like glance over it really quickly while we're getting ourselves situated, those are really the focus of what our lesson is. So if ever I'm using a word and I forget to say what it is or you need a reference back, those are really the key concepts that we associate with this unit. So whenever you've glanced over that, if you just want to open up, and we're just going to kind of work through your pretty model, okay? So when we talk about the American political system, I want to start by differentiating these two concepts, because that's really important. If you look at the name of this class, according to the College Board, it's actually called American Politics, or American Government and Politics. And those are actually different things, so we tend to use them interchangeably outside of a political science class. So politics is, and this is not a fancy definition, but it's the commonly accepted definition, it's who gets what and how they get it. So when you think about that, it might change a little bit. Alonzo, when I say the word politics, do you get any kind of like feeling from that word? Does that have any kind of connotation to you? No? Okay. What about you, Sage? Go ahead. I mean, you guys, you can be critique. It's okay. Like, you're not gonna hurt my feelings. I mean, does politics give any of you a feeling?
Yes.
Okay, what? What'd you say? Irritation. Okay, I like that. What else?
Corruption.
Corruption. Do y'all feel like dirty a little bit?
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's a little shady, right? And I think that that's valid because we do have examples of that in our history, right? We do see, like, if you ever describe someone as a political person, that usually means that they're kind of schemy, you know, they're trying to use things to their advantage. So I want you to kind of step out of that for a little bit and think about this definition, though. When we talk about politics, there's not a one of you in this classroom that is not a political being, because every one of you is trying to accomplish something. Some of you have methods that are very noble and that have this like really great intention. Some of you have methods that are kind of lazy and you try to get by as little as possible. We all have different methodology, and there are some really schemy people. I guess what I want you to remember is bad people are that's what makes for good news. That's what makes for good stories and good movies. That's not the bulk of people, right? There are really bad teachers out there that do horrible things, but I'm going to hope that the majority of your educators have not been those kind of people who would end up in jail for something that they did, right? Like, most of them hopefully had noble intentions, or at least tried to do that. Okay, so that's what politics means. Government's different. Government is the institutions that are created by our Constitution. So when I say the institutions, I mean those branches of government. I mean the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, all the bureaucratic agencies. It's those institutions that are able to actually create policy in our country. So, because we are not an authoritarian system, you have to think of everything in our country as originating with the people. We're not a direct democracy. You all know that. We don't directly make decisions in our country, but everything has to emanate and originate from us because we operate on this idea of consent of the governed. So we're going to start our system looking at participants. So as a participant, there are two ways you participate. You participate as an individual or as a member of a group. And I know that doesn't sound very like fancy, right? What I mean there, though, is when you think about like what I, Shannon Rosenfeld, hope is going to happen in this country, there are things that I can do as Shannon, and there are things that I can do as a member of a group, but this is not an organized political group. This is a group that I identify with because of who I am. I am a mom. That is probably the most important thing about me. So when I participate in our system, As a mother, there are certain things I'm socialized to think and feel, right? I'm a teacher. That for 16 years, that is largely my adult life. And so when I think about policy or what I hope to get from the government, that is shaped by the fact that I'm an educator. I'm a woman. And so demographically, that impacts me. That doesn't mean all women agree, doesn't mean all teachers agree, it doesn't mean all moms agree. But what it means is because of those factors, there are some commonalities that shape the kind of things that I hope that that the government's gonna do, the things I'm gonna ask of them. And that happens for all people. Some things socialize us more. So like for me, because like being a mom is so important to me, that shapes like my political views are different as a mom than they were before being a parent. Like I mean, it's definitely changed me. That doesn't happen to all people because maybe being a parent is not as important to them, or maybe like being married or whatever your profession is. So we're not all socialized the same way, but it does socialize us to have us feel certain things. Okay. All right. So in terms of participants, you guys help me. What are some ways that we can communicate to our country and to our leaders what we want? What? Rallies. Rallies? Okay. Good. So we can have a rally or a protest. Okay. What else? What's the most common thing that Americans do to participate, do you think? Vote, absolutely. Most common. And I would add to that, vote in a presidential election, which is misguided of us in a lot of ways because we're only focusing on one aspect versus all of the other people who affect us so much more in terms of policy making. But that's what gets the most media attention, and it's the thing that everybody gets to vote for versus voting just for your mayor or for your city council or whatever. Okay? What else? Petition? Okay. And so let's say when we use the word petition, you tend to think of like a piece of paper that you sign that you say, I want to protect the panda bears or, whatever. But petition simply means to contact your government. So I can petition in that I can sign a group piece of paper that says we all feel a certain thing. But the purpose of that is to send that to your government and to say, I want you to do this. So if I send an email to Ted Cruz today, that is petitioning the government. If I pick up the phone and I leave a message for the mayor, that's petitioning the government. Okay. All right, what else? Say it again? Yeah, I could say that like participating in polling, that's a good one, Jason. So to participate in polling because like that takes work, right? When they call my house, I don't answer the phone. But if I'm willing to do that, then what I'm doing is I'm communicating through those pollsters to my government. That's great. I like that example a lot. Somebody wants to run for public office. What do they need a lot of? Support. Absolutely. Say, yeah, who said it? Money. Okay, absolutely. So you need a lot of money, right? So I can make donations. I can donate to campaigns. When I donate to a campaign, that does not mean I am giving money to John Cornyn. I'm giving money to John Cornyn's campaign. Giving money to John Cornyn would be bribery. Okay? That's illegal, but does it happen? Probably. Because every couple of years we have a big story and a scandal, somebody did something bad, okay, and they weren't supposed to have done that, okay? But we are absolutely legitimately allowed to donate a campaign. So I can rally or protest. Let's take that to an extreme. So if this is the extreme version of this, what's extreme of that?
Riot.
Okay, riots.
Throwing tea into water.
Yes. Okay, I can bribe, I can riot, I can commit violent acts, right? Do violent acts communicate the will of an individual or a group and what they hope the government to do? Yeah. Okay, so acts of violence, yeah, and we'll just leave it at that, right? So when I say like different methodologies, some individuals and or groups choose to participate in legitimate ways, legal ways that are respected. Some choose to communicate in illegal or illegitimate kind of ways, ways that maybe are not necessarily as respected. The reality is, though, they all communicate something. They say, this is what I want to happen. This is what I hope our country will do. There was something else I was going to put on there and I forgot. Anyway, you guys get it. Oh, do you know this word? Like civil disobedience? Riley, what does that mean? You said, What's it mean?
Me?
Uh-huh.
Kelly.
It was Kelly? Alright, Kelly, what's civil disobedience mean?
That was all you, girl. Civil disobedience is, like peaceful protest when you disagree with the government, but, you, voice that in lawful ways. Or not even necessarily lawful sometimes, but
Right.
in nonviolent ways.
Peaceful ways.
Peaceful.
Yes. So like the sit-ins, during the civil rights movement, the sit-ins in a segregated restaurant at a lunch counter. You know, stuff like that. That would be civil disobedience. So you're violating a law, but you're violating a law that you perceive as unjust. So you're trying to make a stance about that, okay? All right, so all of these, so we communicate and we say what we think and feel as individuals and or groups, and we come up here and we say, okay, this is the way we're going to try to say it. We don't typically communicate well in our country directly to the government. Yes, I can directly petition my government. I can protest outside the White House. But because of our size and because of our group orientation in our country, linkage institutions have become very powerful. This is going to be an important word for us for the rest of the year, okay? Linkage institutions are those political institutions that connect us to our government, and they tend to filter what you and I think and feel. There are 4 kinds of linkage institutions, and my beautiful clip art should tell you what they are. All right? So, what linkage institution is this, my friends?
Political parties.
Political parties. All right? What linkage institution is this? Can you tell? Voting. We're going to say specifically elections. So we vote to participate. Collectively, those votes send a message. And they say, as a result of this election, this is what we think. All right, can you tell who you think is Ted Cruz, Barrett? Can y'all tell what this is right here?
Elected representatives.
Close. It's supposed to be the media.
Oh, you say memes? I think you say memes for a second.
I was not going to say memes. Tell her this model's like 20 years old. Okay, and these little pictures right here, they're supposed to represent all different interests and segments in our society. And so that's what's called an interest group. I suspect that's probably the one you were least familiar with. Interest groups can represent us because of our profession, because of particular issues we care about. There are things like the National Rifle Association, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, Greenpeace, the Sierra Club, the United Way. There are literally, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of interest groups in America. And this is something that's incredibly popular. And if I had to guess right now, those of you in the room, you are far more likely to participate as a member of an interest group than as a member of a political party. This is has a lot more popularity in our country and continues to rise, and eventually we'll kind of explore why, okay? Okay, so we come back up here, right? We had feelings, we communicated them through our linkage institutions, and then we come down here, and what happens is that the policy agenda gets set. Policy agenda it's a difficult thing for people to describe, but basically it's saying it's that which we have put before the government. We have said, we're mad. This is something we want you to do something about. And so it's the task that we've given them. They have to recognize that there's a problem, right? And then they have to say, okay, this is something we're going to address. They don't necessarily address it the way we want it addressed. They don't necessarily address it at all sometimes. Because maybe they'll go, this doesn't affect a lot of people. There's really nothing we can do about it. We don't have the resources. It's politically unpopular. There's a lot of things that might make the government ignore the policy agenda. What are some things that you think might make the government more excited about the policy agenda? It might make them want to do something. Can you say it louder? Somebody said something.